presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
It was a rainy day all day today in Cleveland, and now all of a sudden the skies have cleared. Bright sunshine, beautiful night for baseball, and we're set to wrap up the two games here in Cleveland before moving south to Cincinnati to resume the Ohio Cup Series. The Reds taking on the Cleveland Indians. Hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Great to have you with us from Cleveland, Ohio on this Tuesday night, a bow tie Tuesday, I might add. It's been a good couple of days for Eugenio Suarez. Sunday in Philadelphia, then the opener here last night.
Really amazing what a couple of small adjustments can do when you're a hitter and you're struggling a little bit, and then you decide to really put into play what your coach has been telling you, which in the case of Eugenio Suarez is simply keep your head still. He's been hitting the ball much better ever since he keeps that head still, stay back, drive the ball through the zone, and that's exactly what's happened. He's hit a couple of home runs and really driving the ball. The pitch down and away is the one that he gets to very well because he's got such an upright stance. We're expecting a little more out of him before he cools off.
Let's talk about the matchup tonight. You know, Alfredo Simon started the year one good start, then three bad starts, and all of a sudden, Chris, now his last two times out, he's been a lot better.
Well, you know, he started the year really pitching in his backyard because he really didn't have spring training at all. The Reds signed him. He was working out. But I think what you saw was that Alfredo Simon going through the typical dead arm period pitchers go through normally in March. Well, he went through that in April. Last couple of times out, though, not bad at all. 6 innings, 3 runs his last time out, 7 2/3 innings to start before that. I'm looking for Alfredo Simon to do what he normally does against the Indians, which is pitch a very good ball game.
His mound opponent tonight is Roland.
He is 26 years old, hard thrower. I mean, real hard thrower. Danny Salazar. He's got one of these cartoon changeups. He has a split finger pitch that he uses for a changeup. Left-handers are hitting 100 off of him right now. So this guy can be a strikeout pitcher extraordinaire. They're talking about him being a top-of-the-rotation ace-type pitcher going down the road, and he's really just now learning how to pitch.
Hey, let me ask you something.
All right.
Have you ever, hold my mic a second, you ever seen this move right here? You know what that is?
What is that?
There's a fella right across the street. There's another game in Cleveland coming up tonight. LeBron. He's the man. Jim Day has more on that when we come back.
Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. I'm Jim Day, just outside of Progressive Field, where Progressive Field and Quicken Loans Arena sit right next to each other. Cleveland, man, they are alive for their Cleveland Cavaliers as they open the Eastern Conference Finals tonight a little bit later. We're at Fan Fest here between the stadium and the arena. Fans haven't been let in, we're hours before, but we were able to talk to Toronto native Joey Votto, who's also a Toronto Raptors season ticket holder. He's got a little dilemma. He's got a job to do behind him. In fact, he says baseball's his job, but basketball is his favorite sport, and he's pumped up about his Toronto Raptors.
So excited for them. I hope that they really put a lot of pressure on the Cavs and end up getting to the finals. What it would do for the city, what it would do for that franchise. I watched them from, first tip-off 20-ish years ago. I remember all the guys, Damon Stoudemire and Anthony Davis, and all the players all along the line. And here they are now with a legitimate shot at going to the finals. I'm really, really excited for them.
Staggered start time tonight, 6:10 for the baseball game and a little after 8:30 for the basketball game. So Votto says he'll see how it goes, but he might slip over to the arena, stay behind, and watch the end of the game. The Cavaliers theme this year is All In. When we come back, it's the Reds and Indians. We'll go all in on baseball on the home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio.
Downtown Cleveland, crowd still rolling into Progressive Field. This is the warm-up act for the Clevelanders, if you will, knowing the Cavaliers are playing across the street later tonight. Nice downtown double dip. Let's take a look at Brian Price's starting lineup. Reds at 15 up, 23 down. They'll go with Cozart, Hamilton back in the lineup in center, Joey Votto at first, Brandon the DH, Jay Bruce in right, Suarez in the number 6 hole down at third, Duvall, Peraza to start at second base, and Tucker Barnhart behind the plate. Well, finally putting together all this talent he's been blessed with. Started last year, carrying right into this year for 26-year-old Danny Salazar.
Now, last night the Reds faced a 6'4" right-hander who threw about 95 or 96 in Cody Anderson. Tonight they will face a smaller pitcher, 6 feet tall, is Danny Salazar, but he throws just as hard, and he's got a lot more stuff to back it up, especially his split finger changeup that he throws. It is just a very lethal pitch to lefties and righties.
So here we go. Cozart at 319, 4 home runs, 15 batted in. Strike one on a foul ball. We're underway. Salazar is coming off a very odd start, Chris. Really odd line.
Well, he pitched against the Houston Astros his last time out, and the Astros stranded 8 runners in the first 3 innings against Salazar. But he struck out the side in a couple of those innings to get out of the jam. I mean, he walked 6 batters. He doesn't usually walk that many, but he said he was pulling off the ball, had a mechanical problem, but when he needed to get an out, he was able to do that. So a message to the Reds right now: if you get a chance, don't waste it, because this guy may not give you another one.
He struck out 10, and as you mentioned, walked 6 in just 5 innings. That's in foul ground for out number 1. The Tribe on defense under Terry Francona, brought to you by Ford. Bird, Davis, Chisenhall activated from the bereavement list before the game tonight. Ramirez moves down to third. Boy, what a jack of all trades he is. Lindor, Kipnis, Napoli round out the infield. Gomes hanging the sides. Now Billy Hamilton. Strike called on the outside corner by our crew chief and home plate umpire tonight, Mike Everett. Billy playing for the first time, missed the whole series in Philadelphia. Returned last night, came on defensively late. He was on the bereavement list, as we mentioned, a very sad story, attending the funeral of his 3-year-old nephew, Casey Cole, who died a little less than a week ago in an automobile accident. Tragically sad story. Billy having a solid month of May. He's gone on strikes. First of the game for Salazar. 2 up, 2 down.
The first time he's used that split finger pitch for a strikeout. He gets an amazing 52% strikeouts on that. At least he did last year in the second half of the season. And he's got great arm action. And of course, he warms you up with a fastball that is anywhere from 94 to 96 miles an hour. They've been waiting for this young man for a long, long time. He's now 26 years old. The Indians signed him when he was 17.
Joey, a broken bat roller on the first pitch to second. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds. The big fella Alfredo will try and answer a perfect inning when we return. The Indians, for the first time since the late 1990s, to 3 straight winning seasons. They're 1 game over 500 so far this year, and his lineup reads as follows. Look at his leadoff hitter, big Carlos Santana. He gets on base. They like it. Kipnis, Lindor, the top three. Napoli, Ramirez, Gomes in the middle. Chisenhall, Bird, and Davis at the bottom. And Alfredo Simon, here in the month of May, is starting to put things together.
Well, I think he's getting his arm strength back. I mean, you know, a lot of people think the spring training is too long. I'm one of them, but you've got to have something to get your arm ready, and it just can't be playing catch in the backyard like Simon was probably doing when he was waiting to be signed by a major league team, spending his time down in the DR before. He pitched real well when he first came on, then went through a dead arm period, a little tendonitis. Much better the last 2 times. In fact, that fastball a couple ticks up, which is a good sign.
Well, when they put Santana at the top of the order, they weren't banking on him swinging at the first pitch. Thank you very much. 1 pitch, 1 out. Look at the Reds on defense, brought to you by Ford. Hamilton flanked by Duvall and Bruce. Peraza, the start at second base. His first is a Red. Simon and Barnhart, the battery. First is a Red at that position. Reds are so excited about the future of young Jose Peraza. The 2 questions are, when will he be back for good? More than likely not during this stretch. And when he comes back, where will he play? Billy Hamilton, for the time being, is a Red center fielder. They're hoping he'll be there for a long time. Brandon Phillips has 2 years left on a contract. Cozart would be a free agent at the end of next year. Those are his 3 primary positions, but there are others he could play.
You know, I really like the fact that they're moving him around a little bit. I mean, why not? I mean, unless you can accurately predict the future and tell you exactly where this young man is going to play and the best position for him to play, why don't you play around few different positions and see where he looks the most comfortable, where you judge him to be the best player. I mean, if his offense is as good as advertised, you're going to find a spot somewhere for him. So why not give him some options ahead of time?
Back-to-back ground balls from Santana and Kipnis, and here's Lindor. 309 batted. 2 home runs and 16 batted in. He had 3 hits, knocked in 2, scored 2 in the 15-6 Cleveland rout here last night. Both teams jumping on planes after the game tonight, both headed for the same destination, Cincinnati, to start a 2-game set tomorrow night. Most runs, most hits in a game this season for the Indians.
Well, the good news is, how often does that happen on back-to-back nights? I mean, after all, I would imagine after 15 runs, their arms got to be tired. Interesting, though, that their number 3 hitter, Francisco Lindor, just 22 years old.
Well, he's batting third for a reason. Bruce going to try and hold him to a long, loud single, and he does. Nicely played by Jay and Wright.
Strong throw. And a smart play by Lindor. He realizes, hey, with 2 outs, why take the chance right there?
You know, Chris, you think about it. I don't know how many teams, and really, there was a little gap there, maybe about a year and a half. But for a long, long time, the shortstop before Lindor was their number 3 hitter. You don't see that a lot.
No, you don't. And it's interesting because Lindor came up through the minor leagues with the Indians as more of a glove man than he was an offensive player. He's really growing into his own as offense goes.
And that player, for those of you that don't know, that was a shortstop for a long time. We've seen him already this year now as a Met, as Drubal Cabrera. Strike 1 to Napoli. Team leader with 24 runs batted in.
dangerous guy here with Napoli. I mean, he will hit the ball the other way. He'll take a single, usually late in the count after he's got a couple of strikes on him. But early in the count, he's looking for something on the inner third of the plate.
You'll hear background noise across a PA system. It is right across the street, which is Quicken Loans Arena. We're at 8:30 Eastern Time tonight. The Cavaliers and the Raptors from Toronto begin Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. And they're getting revved up over there already.
I'm not so sure if it's Lindor that has got Alfredo Simon all discombobulated or whether it's just a mix-up on the signs right there. But he has not looked comfortable ever since Lindor reached first base after that single.
Lindor is 6 of 7 in stolen base attempts. 1-2.
Well, he had 12 stolen bases last year. I mean, he did have a high water mark of 25 stolen bases, but that was back when he was playing in Double-A.
Gone swinging Napoli, and that's all for the Indians in the first. 1 hit, 1 left, and 1. No score.
Tonight's storylines brought to you by Elk and Elk. Danny Salazar pitching well below American League averages. Opponents hitting just 151. That is more than 100 points below the AL average. 226 on base percentage, well below the AL average. And opponents just slugging 266 off of him, well below the American League standard. First in a couple of categories. He is deadly when he is on. Already a 1-2-3 inning to his credit. We'll see what the Reds got in the second.
You know, Jim, those are great numbers. I mean, it really gives you an idea outside of just wins, losses, ERA of how dominant in the early part of this year through his first 7 starts Salazar has been. 14-game winner a season ago. ERA in the 3s. You know, they've been waiting on him.
Well, they waited.
And some felt like that, you know, last year it was either put up or shut up, and he's moved well beyond that.
Well, they had to protect him a long time ago because he's been in the organization since he was 17 years old. He's now 26. He spent 7 seasons playing in either rookie ball or A ball. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he had Tommy John surgery in 2010. So you bring him along slowly, low minor leagues, and then all of a sudden he has a breakout season. And that was the second half of last year. This is what he did against the Astros, though. He lost his control. They really pinpointed more of his attention out there. His concentration is what he lost against the Astros when he walked 6 in his last start.
Well, the Indians starting rotation is a mighty good one there without, you know, Chris, I guess depending on the day, maybe depending on the week, maybe the month. I mean, that's how talented this group is. Carrasco might be their best pitcher. And Carlos Carrasco right now on the DL. Base hit right field. First 2 aboard here in the Reds' second inning. Tell you what, Jay Bruce is starting to put up some pretty good numbers. That batting average now up over 270. He has 15 extra base hits, 25 runs batted in. Not bad.
Well, it really helped the other day when he got the base 5 times. Every time he came to the plate, he ended up on first base. He picked up a couple of knocks last night.
His on-base percentage for the year is at .324. You'd like to see that come up a little bit. Draw a few more walks. Jay's only drawn 9 of them all year.
You know, but the real question about revolving around Jay Bruce is that when, you know, trade talk starts to heat up, will he be one of the subjects of those trade talks? And I would imagine the answer to that is yes. I mean, the Reds made no, but they didn't try to hide the fact that, you know, there were people inquiring about Jay Bruce. They were also, you know, inquiring with other teams about Jay Bruce over the winter. I mean, they're trying to rebuild and they're trying to clean the canvas a little bit of guys who they think that might not be here in a few years when this team is a contender.
Quickly 0-2 on Suarez. Salazar jumping in front after a walk and a hit.
It can be very distracting for a player to have to go through that, to be asked on a daily basis. What have you heard today? Have your agent call you, update you with a couple of rumors or tidbits of information that may, you know, tantalize you or may make you feel like, oh, that's not so great. But there really hasn't been a lot of that here so far early in the season.
You know what, though? Maybe more than anybody on this Reds team, I'm not sure there's a more grounded guy on this team than Jay Bruce. You know, great upbringing, his mom and dad. Story's been told he has a sister with special needs that he just adores. He's always taking good care of her and wants to be with her all the time. Recently just became a dad. I mean, he's just a rock solid guy. Suarez gone on strikes. First out of the inning. You may remember, Chris, in spring training, you know, he didn't shy away, Bruce, or duck any of those questions when the rumors started up about Toronto. He came right out and said, look, this organization has been great to me. I owe them everything. And if they feel like they have to do what they have to do, I understand.
Yeah, you're right. You know, very few times have you seen a player handle it that well. And he's going through it for the first time.
Right. Now Adam Duvall, another guy having a good year. Strike 1. Adam is our IGS bringing the energy. Look at some of these numbers and where he ranks among all National League players here in the month of May. Very, very impressive. Good old country hardball, first 2 pitches from Salazar.
And it is, but if you really notice how Salazar is throwing it at 95 in somewhat of an effortless way. I mean, he just kind of looks like he's playing catch out there.
One ball and 2 strikes. Straight up in the air and playable behind the plate for Yan Gomes for the second out. So after a walk and a single, it's been strikeout, foul out, and the Reds need a hit from Peraza if they're going to get on the board.
This is kind of the modus operandi for Danny Salazar. He pitches himself into trouble and then he turns it up a notch and figures out a way to get out of it. 53 strikeouts places him 4th in the American League, as does the 22 walks.
All right, now Peraza. Runners at first and second with 2 away. Scoreless game. We're in the second inning. Breaking ball high. Peraza 3 hits in his first 9 at-bats in the big leagues this season. His Reds debut, he came up a short while, you may remember, last year with the Dodgers. He is looking for his first extra base hit and his first run batted in. Good time to get it.
As good as that pitch was by Salazar, that really was not an awkward swing by Peraza. I mean, he was a little late because he's waiting for it, but they have not thrown him a fastball here in the first 2 pitches.
Tardy there on a 95-mile-per-hour heater. 1-2 the count. So here's Salazar trying to work out of a 2-on and nobody out jam. A strike away as Peraza waits. Broken back, ground ball, inning over. Red strand 2, still no score.
Sports Ohio has another ticket office takeover. Great deal. Reds tickets for this weekend against Robinson Cano and the Seattle Mariners. Terrace Line tickets are just $25. Go to reds.com/FSOhio right now. Use the promo code FSOhio to get your tickets this weekend. The offer expires at the end of tonight's post-game show.
All right, so here we go in the bottom of the second inning. No score. It is ball 1 to Jose Ramirez. Well, what a start this guy's off to. You know, we're talking about getting a chance to see Peraza. Well, here's a guy roughly Peraza's age, a little bit older, but he is playing everywhere and getting starts all over the field.
You know, it's almost like Terry Francona is managing a little bit like Joe Madden. I mean, they've already compared this young man, he's only 23 years old, Jose Ramirez, to Ben Zobrist, the super sub that they have over there in Chicago. He was all over the place when he was with the Rays. Of course, he's second baseman and all over the place now, still with the Cubbies.
Well, they're turning Javier Baez into the modern day version of Ben Zobrist.
And then, you know, you have Carlos Santana leading off here, which is a lot of people, and you included at the very beginning. Well, look at this big guy as a leadoff hitter. Not so prototypical. So, I mean, I guess once you win a World Series or two as a manager of the Red Sox, you can pretty much do what you want. And let people second guess you all day long while you clink your rings together.
That's exactly right. And you need a wheelbarrow to carry around all that cash. Yan Gomes comes into tonight's game having homered in 3 straight games for the first time in his career. He's trying to make it 4, and it's off that very high wall and left, and that's a single. Alfredo backing up the play as that throw is well offline by Duvall.
And Gomes falls into the same trap that so many runners do. They see the ball beginning to come back into the infield. He turns around and puts his head down and goes right back to first base. He hits it well. I was talking about his setup a little bit last night. We'll get into that a little bit more, but if we have a shot of him coming around the bag, Duvall gets it and he sees the ball coming in and he goes, well, okay, here it comes. I'm just going to go on back to the bag right there. But now the ball has gotten away completely in the infield and he's already backpedaled to first base.
This ball is drilled to straightaway center field by Chisenhall, but that's a long way from home.
Not carrying tonight anywhere like it was last night.
When all of a sudden all those clouds blew out of here about an hour and a half before the game and a clear skies came in, the wind came with it. A chilly wind out of the northeast off of Lake Erie. Last night there was a lot more humidity in the air than tonight.
Ball was really popping out of here last night.
Man, it's just so bizarre to hear all that music going on. Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
This is almost like playing a game in like some massive park where families can pull up their van or have an outdoor party and your game's going on, you know, maybe 20, 30, 50 yards away.
Well, that game, that basketball game that you referred to with the Cavaliers and the Raptors, not set to begin for a little under 2 hours, so get used to it, partner.
You got it. Got the tailgating going on.
Well, there'll be a lot of people in Cleveland. I mean, coming downtown tonight anyway. There's a good crowd here tonight for the Indians game. There'll be obviously a sellout. What do they bring in, 23,000 or so in the arena? And a lot of people just to be in the area will come downtown. And why not?
Marlon Byrd got the start last night against his one-time team. This time a year ago, he was wearing a red uniform. He had a big night. He had 3 hits, scored 3 runs, hit a 2-run home run. He's knocked in 6 runs over his last 5 games. They're hoping he can get on one of those hot streaks like we saw as a Red last year after a very slow April. Had a big May. That one banged into left field on a 2-2 pitch, and he tried with 2 on and 2 out. And the number 9 hitter, Rajai Davis, coming up.
One thing you say about Marlon Byrd his entire career is that he swings the bat. In fact, last year he had the highest swing rate of any major league player. Over 60% of the pitches that he sees, he swings at. That's one reason why he's traveled around from team to team, providing some power for purchase. 23 home runs between the 2 teams he was with last year, the Reds and the Giants.
Davis went into last night's game hitting .210 with an on-base percentage not much better. He had 2 hits, was on base 4 times, scored twice, knocked in a run. Base hit right field. They're going to wave the runner. They are. Here comes a throw by Jay Bruce, and it gets away from Barnhart. And it's a 1-0 Cleveland lead on a 2-out single by Davis. Bird on to third, Davis to second on the throw.
Now remember that the lead runner here is Yan Gomes, the catcher, and they took a chance by sending him. It looked like the throw was on line, and it was there in time, but it had bounced a couple of times. And it didn't give Tucker Barnhart really much of a hop. It goes like in between hops right there. It took one big hop and then bounced again right in front of him, and he was unable to get the handle on it. Question is, did he touch home plate as he went by? He attempted to there with his left hand. He never did go back to try to touch it again. So I imagine he feels like he got it.
It's a big batter in this ball game right now for Simon. Indians out in front 1-0, and they have a pair of runners in scoring position for Santana. Boy, you wonder what is going on here with Barnhart and Alfredo. Santana an on-base percentage of .330, and normally he'll be a lot better than that once he starts to swing the bat better, because he's a good hitter, not a great hitter, but a good hitter. You look over his entire career, and he's really been a lightning rod for the Cleveland faithful. That debate about does he walk too much and not enough power, but really his whole career, only Joey Votto has walked more since Santana came to the major leagues in all of baseball. Ball 4.
Well, Alfredo Simon is not used to pitching like this against the Indians. Last year, as a member of the Detroit Tigers, he pitched 5 times against his team and beat them 4 times. Including back-to-back starts that he made in April and June last year. where he didn't give up a run. There was one message delivered by Mark Riggins and then an additional message delivered by Tucker Barnhart.
All right, here's Kipnis, and it's down low for ball one.
You know, I'm wondering if Simon's arm feels right. I mean, he's thrown a lot of off-speed pitches throughout this entire inning. He's now gotten to the point where he's thrown nearly as many pitches out of the zone as in the zone.
2-0. Well, his body language certainly tells you that something's not quite right. And those numbers right there reflecting what Chris was just mentioning a moment ago. That one gets away from Barnhart on ball three, and that'll bring in a second run.
I mean, we've seen a lot of pitches down in the dirt from Simon. I just don't think that he's right. You know, he went through a period of time there when he was not pitching well, and eventually it was revealed that he had some tendonitis in his shoulder. Maybe he's got something bothering him again, and he said, well, I think I can pitch through it. But sometimes what you think you can do and actually you can do once you get out there are two different stories.
Three and one on Kipnis. Runners at second and third. A two-run second inning for the Indians. Three and two. Kipnis on ball four.
Our Fox Tracks has it right there.
Payoff pitch. Two more runs going to score, and it is 4-0 Cleveland.
Kipnis works it to 3 balls and 2 strikes and a fastball that time up around the belt line. And he goes right back through the box with a ringing single that'll drive in 2. Nobody up in the Reds bullpen. Last night it was the 3rd inning against John Lamb where the Indians dropped the 4 spot. They followed it up with a 3-run 4th inning. 4 here in the 2nd inning tonight.
Saw a shot there of last night's losing pitcher John Lamb. He was given a 4-0 lead after 2.5. And the Indians scored those 4 against him in the 3rd, 3 more in the 4th, and that was it for Lamb. Shot down the left field line by Lindor. Sprinting on his way to third. Kipnis, he'll hold in there on a 2-base hit. Five straight Indians have reached since Gomes was at first with 2 outs in the inning.
Well, they've reached all with base hits, which is really almost hard to do. Except for the walk by Santana.
Yep.
So it's 4 out of the 5 have had hits. 5 out of the last 6 batters have had hits.
So that ever elusive third out. Still waiting on Simon. This is a 9th man to bat in the inning. And again, the Indians just moments ago had Gomes at first with 2 outs in the inning. Single by Bird. 2-out RBI single by Davis. A wild pitch made it 2-0. After a walk, a 2-run single by Kipnis. And now a double by Lindor.
You're just not seeing anything sharp in the way of breaking pitches coming out of Alfredo Simon. He uses his fastball very reluctantly tonight.
I am stunned there is no one getting loose in the Reds bullpen. Of course, they don't have an off day for a long time. Their next off day will be a week from Thursday after a 3-game series in Los Angeles before starting a 3-game set in Milwaukee. On Napoli. 3-2. High fly ball to left center field. Hamilton at the base of the wall will get it, and that's all for the try. 9 bat, 4 score. End of 2. 4-0 Cleveland.
Miocic on Saturday became the UFC Ultimate Fighting Champion, the heavyweight champion, a knockout victory. And before the game today, he met with some Reds players, including Joey Votto, and took some batting practice with the Indians. Also shagged some foul balls. And I tell you, the big fella hit one out while the Reds were stretching. And there was a big celebration afterwards. High fives from Votto, etc. Stipe Miocic. He's a big dude. There's the video of him hanging out in the Cavs hat. And indeed, right here, there's the home run swing right there. And I imagine he's on his way over to Quicken Loans Arena, and they're going to go nuts when they introduce him.
Well, you know, it was funny. Brad Mills, the right-hand man of Terry Francona for a long time, one-time Astros manager, he was throwing BP. Chris, you and I were sitting here watching, and just to keep him on his toes, he threw him a curveball. And I'm going to tell you, he might be big and strong, but the big fella jumped out of the way in a hurry. It was funny. But he is a strong dude.
I mean, how can you be the champion of the world and be afraid of a little 5-ounce baseball?
He was. But he did get one. Tell you, he didn't take some, you know, like 5, 10, 12 swings. He was part of a regular turn with the Indians players.
I think he hit the entire session with the third group.
Yeah.
I remember years ago when the Indians, or when the Cavaliers first signed LeBron James, he came and took batting practice here.
How'd he do?
Hey, it looked like it was a hailstorm inside the home plate area there. He had a hard time getting it out of the cage, as I remember.
Tucker Barnhart gone swinging to begin the Reds' third inning. Hey, Jim Day, back to you real quick. You know, you were kind enough to share that story about what really happened with Joey Votto in Philadelphia on Sunday. And correct me if I'm wrong, it did look like he came up to you and appreciated that.
He did, although he said, you know, it's not a big deal. Stuff like that. The story of him, you know, not dissing it doesn't sell or doesn't make headlines.
Right.
So I think he understands. So it really wasn't a big deal to him, but he did appreciate that the record was set straight, at least regionally.
Right. Two up, two down in the Reds' third, and here comes Billy Hamilton. He struck out his first time up. Indians with 4 runs in the second inning against Alfredo Simon. Salazar will throw him out in a perfect third. Indians in front, 4-0.
ballpark for as low as $12. This Saturday, first 25,000 fans will receive a Ken Griffey Jr. dual bobblehead. It's thanks to St. Elizabeth Healthcare. Tickets 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. And I got to tell you, boys, that Junior Griffey dual bobblehead is going to be a pretty popular item.
Is that a Seattle Mariners uniform and a Reds uniform, Jim? Is that what that is?
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think there'll be lines starting about now for that bobblehead.
Probably right. So here we go, Simon to face Ramirez, and this was the same duo which got together to begin the last inning. And Alfredo got him out on a slow roller. Gomes had a single, but then Chisenhall flied out to center, and you're thinking, well, no big deal. Not the same end result this time. Base hit for Ramirez.
Simon has already had a game this year that resembles this one. It was a 9-0 loss to the Cubs where he went 2 2/3 innings of 8-run baseball. He should get it out here.
Of course, he had another game against the Cubs where he didn't even get out of the first inning. The shortest outing of his major league career. And that's the primary reason for that ERA, which is, you know, right around 9.
Well, with only 27 innings pitched, earned run averages are not the barometer to go by. Because you can't get blown up by just one bad outing. In this case, it's been a couple of bad outings and one bad relief outing. You're going to add one more to it tonight because you can't be happy with that 4 spot. But if you turn down the screws and that's all they get off of you the rest of the way, then you can make it into a positive night. Trying to prevent here is a little add-on where you continue to suck the energy out of the rest of the ball club. That's what the Indians did last night when they eventually put 15 on the board.
Ramirez only 1 of 3 in stolen base attempts, but he can run. He can really run. He's had big minor league seasons. Stolen bases 38, 29, 25 last year between AAA Columbus and the Major League club in Cleveland. And the Reds are going to pay attention to him with that in mind. 1 on, 1 out, 4-0 Indians here in the 3rd. Votto couldn't get there. Peraza ranging to his left and unable to find the handle, and that'll be an infield hit for Chisenhall.
Well, as hard as Chisenhall hit the ball his last time up, and Billy Hamilton caught it right at the wall, dead center field. Maybe he feels like he deserves that one. A little 95 hopper into the perfect spot on the right side of the infield. Chisenhall just reinstated today off the bereavement list. The tragedy of his older sister, just a couple of years older, passing away suddenly.
Man, that's got to be tough. Thoughts and prayers to their whole family, and I'm sure many, many friends. Wow. So young. So young. 1 to Bird. Runner takes off for third, and he'll go in standing up. A mental lapse there by Alfredo Simon. Even if that pitch is in a strike zone, they have no chance to throw out Ramirez.
Well, that coupled with the fact that the pitch was almost wild, low and away towards first base, made it impossible for Barnhart even to try to catch it and make a throw.
Bird helped him a little bit there, chasing a pitch up. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Marlon Bird. Runners on the corners and 1 out. Reds back home against these Indians tomorrow night. We'll have the entire series for you right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Brandon Finnegan against right-hander 5-0 right-hander Josh Tomlin. We understand the Indians made a change just before the game. I was unaware of it, Chris. But they're going to bring up young Mr. Clevenger to make his major league debut tomorrow.
I saw that. I saw him actually coming out here running the bases a little bit. We saw him in spring training, I believe, a couple of times, Tom, at different games. Played down there a good year.
Mike Clevenger, 25 years old. Swing and a miss. He came over from the Angels in that Vinny Pistano trade in 2014. He was the Indians' organizational pitcher of the year last year, pitching the entire season in Akron. That's their Double-A team. He looks like maybe he decided not to cut his hair after he was traded.
And before he was traded.
He's got the John Lamb look going there. That one chewed up Davis.
One of the better fastballs that Simon has thrown tonight. 93 down and in. We've seen Simon at times throw, over 95 miles an hour. I'm not sure he's going to get there at this point in the season now. He may get there later on. But he's at 91 to 93 and always really tries to keep it down, work that downward plane.
Well, Chisenhall doesn't figure to be going anywhere. You got to make sure if you're going to turn and throw it over there to Votto, that throw is not even slightly offline, because Ramirez is dancing around as if he's going to come home. Very aggressive runner is Ramirez at third. Well hit left field. Duvall at the wall and up against the wall. 2 runs scored on the 1-2 double by Davis. 6-0 Cleveland.
Well, it was a curveball that Alfredo Simon decided to go to right here, and he just left it up in the zone. He provided the height, and Davis provided the bat head. The only question was that it was going to be far enough to go off the wall at least, but it was going to be high enough and far enough to get over that yellow line. It was not. Played by Duvall, but 2 outs. Both runs are going to come around to score.
This guy's put on nearly 30 points on his batting average in 1 game and 2 at-bats. He's put over 50 points on his on-base percentage in 1 game. and 2 at-bats. He's knocked in 3 of the Indians' 6 runs here tonight. And there's another base hit and another run. 7-0. Still nobody getting loose in the Reds bullpen at this point. Growing in the 3rd inning, and it's a 7-0 Cleveland lead.
Nobody getting loose. They're beginning to move around a little bit. Somebody's taking his jacket off, and that is Brian Price out to talk to Alfredo Simon.
See Brian trying to make steady eye contact with Simon to make sure Simon is looking him right in the eye and listening to whatever it is he's talking about. Alfredo would drift away with the eyes, and Price would make sure that he zeroed right back in during that conversation.
Well, this has got to be really tough for Brian Price to watch. Last night, seeing his starter get lit up in the first few innings. John Lamb going 4 innings of 7-run baseball. Alfredo Simon has given up 7 here in the first 2 2/3. And as bad as it is to watch from the dugout, it's probably worse to watch when you're playing behind him in the field.
So Delabar now cranking it up out in the Reds bullpen. Potentially 4/5 of this Reds rotation is on the disabled list right now. And even though the starters up until these last 2 nights by and large have been decent, and ERA was right around 3.7 for the last 2.5 weeks from the Reds starters, with very little help, as we know, from the pen. But boy, these last 2 games have been rough. All of the Indians' runs here in the last 2 innings, 7 of them, have come with 2 out. Kipnis, a 2-out, 2-run single in that 4-run 2nd inning. An excuse me swing there, 2-2. Carra's able to knock it down and throws out the runner. That'll end the inning. 3 more for the Tribe. And at the end of 3, they lead 7-0.
at the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Joey Votto going to work against Salazar. First pitch swinging. Alfredo Simon, 7 runs already on the board for the Indians. When he came off the mound, indeed the frustration boiling over.
Hey, we've all been there. Not necessarily on a major league mound and frustrated with a bad outing, but a bad day. We've all been there. 0-2 to Votto.
Your bad day may not have been televised. Well, it could have been. In your case, it could have been.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, you're on the air.
Yeah, believe me, I have a lot of them. A lot of them.
But I mean, you know, when you have a bad day as a pitcher, you feel like you let down not only yourself but your entire team, because oftentimes, you know, the performance of the pitcher determines how the game goes. I mean, a hitter can go 0 for 4 and he can go, I'll just come back and get him tomorrow. I've got 8 other guys in this lineup that should be swinging the bat, but there's only one guy on the mound at the time throwing the baseball.
Joey bounced out to the second baseman his first time up. There's a check swing. And it missed down and away. 2-2. Long way to go in this one. We're only in the 4th. Votto, Phillips, and Bruce. The trio to start it. Is that down near you, Jim Day?
That thing came rifling right by me. And amazing that it missed this big head.
That's your buddy Joey Votto. He shouldn't be doing that to you.
Well, it's a big old hang with him right there.
Well, thankfully everybody's all right, right?
Looks like everyone's all right.
Okay.
Still photographers behind me. I think everyone's all right.
Salazar can't believe that wasn't strike 3. Joey got his first hit of his entire road trip in the game last night when he had a double. He has walked 3 times and been hit by a pitch. It's a good cut right there on a 96-mile-per-hour fastball, but he fouls it straight back out of play. This time Salazar gets the call that he wanted. And that's his 4th strikeout of the night.
Had a little action on this fastball. He was upset, I think, that he missed the earlier pitch. And that little comeback fastball right on the inside corner. Home plate umpire Mike Everett right over that edge to see it. Salazar has now struck out a batter in each inning.
And 4 total in the game. Slider strike on the outside corner to Brandon. Salazar's only walked 1 after walking 6 his last time. And that walk was to Phillips. It's a nice play by Kipnis. And picked out of there by Napoli. Well done.
Well, Brandon has been on the other end of that many times, robbing batters of base hits, going back up the middle to backhand the ball, throw it over his head. And that is a nice job by Kipnis and Napoli to retire the Red second baseman.
2 away for Jay Bruce. He singled in the right field. In fact, when he singled in the 2nd inning, the Reds had the first 2 on against Salazar. But then he retired 3 in a row. And nary a Red has reached since the Bruce single. Fastball away.
Ball goes right off the toe or the instep there of Yan Gomes. He's thinking, boy, it would get me on the one spot on my foot where I don't have a protector.
You know, doesn't it make you wonder about, obviously, you know, they've done so much as far as the types of materials they're using and player safety and all that kind of thing. But I'll tell you, every time I see one of those, I wonder about the development of anything that would prevent something like that from happening.
I'm sure that there are many catchers and former catchers sitting around thinking, I wish I would have invented something. It has come a long way. I mean, they're lighter now than they've ever been. They cover more of your body. There are more hinges everywhere than you've ever seen. But when a ball is coming in there at 95 miles an hour and then foul ticked off, and you don't know where it's going to go.
3-2 to Jay Bruce. Hit hard, but right at the first baseman, who stays with it. And the feed to Salazar. Back-to-back perfect innings, 9 in a row, retired by the Cleveland right-hander. All Indians so far.
This guy has been. And speaking of additions, Terry and his wife Jacqueline have added to their family. The day after opening day, a baby girl named Alicia Leanne.
In fact, my wife was trying to tell me all about the baby, and I was telling her about the home.
And what a day it was.
Hey, get out of here! This guy has been.
And speaking of additions, Terry and his wife Jacqueline have added to their family. The day after opening day, a baby girl named Alicia Leanne.
In fact, my wife was trying to tell me all about the baby, and I was telling her about the home run.
That is from 1987. That was the voice of Johnny Bench doing a feature on then Red Terry Francona, and you'll see the whole feature on this week's edition of Reds Weekly. Jeff McCoy and Doug Flynn tomorrow at 6 for Reds Weekly right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Doug Flynn had a chance to talk to Tito as well today, and that will be a part of the show.
And you know, Jim, as you well know, you know, of all the guys you go around, and I'm not talking about baseball, I'm just talking about in life. Terry Francona is one fun guy to be around.
He is.
He just has such an easy going, quick to smile, easy to like. good sense of humor, way about it.
Well, they often say that the team reflects the personality of the manager. And I think if the Indians end up doing that with Terry Francona, they'll be fine.
Well, many of you may remember that story in spring training, which I thought was one of the greatest stories I've ever heard.
The balloon story?
Yeah.
Water balloon?
Yeah, where Terry Francona and the guy next to him there, Brad Mills, they would wait for the front office, the baseball operations staff, the general manager, Chris Antonetti and his staff to come back, where you took a little shuttle, or you could walk, and they would walk back or ride a golf cart after playing a game back to their complex down the road. Reds are a little further down the road. And Francona and Mills would hide with water balloons. And as soon as that golf cart came by them, they would just blast these guys with water balloons. I mean, how many people do that to their boss?
I mean, he's close to 60 years old, isn't he?
I love it.
Why outgrow the kind of fun? But of course, there were paybacks to come.
Yes, there were. They got him. They were waiting for him, laying in the weeds. How many people would love to throw water balloons at their boss? Not to hurt him. That's something you might have done, Chris Welsh, back in the old days to maybe Dick Williams.
No, but I did soak Joe Altobelli with a garden hose.
That's a good guy to get.
Yeah. He wasn't happy.
You're kidding.
No, he wasn't happy at all. It was when Joe Altobelli was managing the Columbus Clippers AAA franchise of the Yankees, and we had a power outage at Franklin County Stadium. And inside those clubhouses, there are no windows. And I mean, it is dark as a coal mine in there. And I was in the tub, the whirlpool tub.
Right.
Back in those days, they were big silver, stainless steel tubs. And I wasn't getting out because I couldn't see. So so anytime I saw the door open, I would spray who would ever be coming in the door. And one of the players set me up. Said, "Hey, you can't get me." And he said, "Here, Joe, you can get right in here." And I soaked him.
Oh, that's my kind of guy.
And
who did that?
It was Greg Cochran that did
my
that.
kind of guy.
So as it turns out, Altobelli really lost it. Wanted to know who was in the hot tub. And then he said, "Never mind, I don't want to know, because I'll hold it against you the rest of the year." And then he proceeded to try to work his way through the clubhouse. And of course, that's back in the old days when you would throw your dirty laundry into laundry carts. And of course, you bang your shin in the middle of the darkness. And he did that not once, but twice, and then tripped over the second one. So he was not only wet, but he was bruised and had the dirty laundry all over him. And I didn't tell him it was me until the very last day of the year.
What a beautiful guy.
Great guy.
Oh, man. What a wonderful guy he was. Used to call him Whispering Joe. He'd speak so softly. You could barely hear him.
National League Manager of the Year with the San Francisco Giants.
He was a manager for a long, long time. If I'm not mistaken, the stadium is named after him now in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Tell you, when you talk about some characters, when I got that Cubs job in 1990, Western Hills High School graduates, both of them, Jim Fry, one of the great characters of all time, was a general manager. And another familiar name, a great character, Don Zimmer, was the field manager. Joe Altobelli was a hitting coach. What a great staff they had. Sharply hit ball. Peraza will handle it. Inning over. Scoreless inning for the Indians. We go to the fifth. 7-0 Cleveland.
Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by your local Ford dealer, Ford Go Further, and by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on U.S. News Best Children's Hospital. I'm Jim Day. It was Jim Riggleman filling in at third base as the coach for Billy Hatcher, but tonight the Hatchman is back down at third base, and we once again congratulate on him and his daughter. He was away attending graduation. But think about Jim Riggleman for a moment. In just a few days span, he managed a game. He was the third base coach and the bench coach. You rarely see that in Major League Baseball in a span of a few days.
Well, I tell you what, Jim, it probably adds to a long list of items like that when you've been around as long as Jim Riggleman has been around. You know, a coach, a manager, Chris, for a long time in the minor leagues. So he's probably done just about everything, but that might be the first time for that sequence of events.
Well, he got a managerial job at the Padres when he was 39 years old. He's managed 12 years overall. I mean, 3 seasons with the Padres, 5 with the Chicago Cubs, a year with the Mariners, and 3 or so with the Washington Nationals. I'm a baseball lifer and a very good baseball man. I mean, he, you know, from top to bottom, knows the rules of the game, knows the strategy of the game, and is always trying to learn more.
Gone swinging Suarez to begin the Reds' 5th. You know, you look back, and I still feel to this day, and I very much believe this to this day, that if everybody, Jim Riggleman, a first-year general manager, and Mike Rizzo with Washington, if everybody could turn back the clock to 2011 and do it all over again, Riggleman might still be managing that team now. Remember, he wanted a contract. They were above 500. What were they, like 38, 37, something like that? And, you know, depending on whose side of the story you believe, and I quote my old buddy Harry Carey all the time. He used to say there's not 2 sides to every story, there's 3. Your side, my side, and the truth. But the long and short of it was he wanted a contract, and the Nationals were not prepared to give him one. And so he left, as Duvall is his second out of the inning. He has never managed since. And that's 6 seasons, 5 years ago.
Well, he did it in the middle of the season, too. It was June the 24th, 2011, when he was essentially, I guess for lack of a better term, a permanent interim manager. He hadn't been really given the backing of the front office with a deal that would take him into the next season. So he decided that when the team was a contender, that he felt like, you know, he was going to be shunned aside for somebody else to come along. And after he worked hard to do it.
If I were a betting man, I would still bet he's going to get one more shot.
And really what it came down to is that he had an option for the next year, and they wanted the team to pick up the option for next season. And Mike Rizzo told him, well, the organization's not ready to do that right now. And he said, well, I'm not getting on the team bus then. And as a man of his word, he didn't get on the team bus. And that was the last day that he managed the Washington Nationals. And some people hear that story and they say, well, you've got to be crazy. I mean, you have a job as a major league manager and you're walking away from it like that? And there'd just be just as many people thinking, well, good for you.
Two and 2 on Jose Peraza. And there's a fastball right down the middle at 95. It'll end the inning. 6 strikeouts for Salazar. Halfway through it, Indians lead 7-0.
play ball, bat and ball set in honor of Play Ball Weekend. See your Reds take on the Mariners for as low as $12. Tickets 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com.
Well, here we go in the Cleveland fifth inning. They scored 4 in the second, 3 in the third. And it's 7-0 as they bat against the starter who's still in there, Alfredo Simon.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised at the content of that conversation that Brian Price had with Alfredo Simon a couple of innings ago. When he went out there and he kept trying to make eye contact with Simon, and it was a one-way conversation.
This time it's dropped in there fair by Chisenhall, and he's on his way to second base, and he is safe for the double.
I would imagine that a lot of that had to do with, hey, you know, I know you're down 7 runs right now, but I need some innings out of you because I'm not going to blow up my bullpen any more than it already is after having to go to it so many times last night and then before that in the Philadelphia series. I need to save these guys. So you're going to have to suck up some innings out here, period. And with that said, there's some action down in the Reds bullpen here in the 5th.
And against Dellamar, he was up back in that third. Chisenhall is second hit in 3 at-bats. And here's Bird, 1 of 2. Second night in a row we've seen Bird come to the plate, and he's had a good series, but the second night in a row with a runner at second and nobody out, and he grounded out to the shortstop. But here's a guy in Rajai Davis who is our steel power tool performer, and you certainly would not have expected that. Came into this series 2 of 30 without a walk and 1 run scored. Look what he has done in 1 game and 2 at-bats. 4 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks. He has 3 RBIs tonight and 2 runs scored. Runner had to wait, or Davis would have another RBI. It's his 3rd straight hit. Tell you what, though, the play we saw from him last night running the bases was the most exciting play in this series.
Well, he was off running at the time of the pitch, and this goes down as just simply a base hit in the right center field. And Davis comes all the way around, beats the relay throw to the plate. I think he surprised everybody by coming around third base and just tip of his toe, dragged it across the plate. There was a review on the play. He was deemed safe upon review. And he is just on fire right now.
I've heard a lot of people say, you know, you got to be careful. This guy might score from first base on a single. And I've been blessed enough to broadcast thousands and thousands and thousands of baseball games. That is the first time I've ever seen it done. You hear guys say it, but on a routine single in the right center field, until last night, I have never seen a runner score from first base.
Well, 2 things have to happen. You have to have a good jump at first base on the pitch. 3 things. You have to have a lot of speed, and you need a little cooperation from your defense. And that ball was played a little less than full effort by the Reds defense. Although we really focused everything on the review and whether he tagged the plate, whether the tag by Cabrera was there or not.
Base hit by Santana will plate another run, and that'll make it 8-0 Indians.
I mean, this is just one of those games, and maybe it's just one of those series where I mean, these balls are just going in the holes here. Yeah, they're fairly hard-hit ground balls, but the previous one right by Suarez at third, that one Votto dives for just by him.
That's going to be all for Simon. 4 1/3 innings, 8 earned runs. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Delabar will take over for Simon.
Presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Alfredo Simon, 14 hits allowed in 4 1/3 innings here tonight. He leaves trailing 8-0. Runners at first and third. And recently just brought up from AAA Louisville. Was brought on board at the very end of spring training. Steve Delabar.
Well, he certainly isn't a rookie. Delabar's been around a long time. In fact, he's been an all-star back in 2013 with the Toronto Blue Jays, when he pitched 55 games for the Blue Jays that year to a 2.7 earned run average.
Well, I know this is a guy, Chris, you were excited about when the Reds decided to take a flyer on him and bring him in.
Absolutely. I think really from the very beginning of the year, I've always felt that the Reds needed a little bit more experience in their bullpen. And Delabar's been around. He's had 6 years in the major leagues, 4 with Toronto, parts of a couple of years with the Seattle Mariners. He's got a good enough arm to throw in the mid-90s. He throws a split finger pitch for his changeup. His hands are very big. His fingers very, very long. In fact, he can almost wrap up his baseball into his hand and have his fingers touch as he wraps around the baseball. So if anybody has hands that are built for a splitter, it would be Steve Delabar. Got to find the strike zone here.
All right, they are loaded after the walk to Kipnis with 1 out, and here's Lindor, 2 of 3. First pitch swinging, fouls it straight back in on a play, and Delabar jumps in front, 0-1. 2. And a swing and a miss to pick up the second out of the inning. One more out to go, and here comes Napoli.
And he goes right up the ladder with a four-seam fastball for the strikeout. The Indians are having the hitting party tonight that everybody got an invitation to. Each one of their 9 spots in the batting order has picked up at least one hit.
Well, last night of the original starting lineup, talk about rare. Not only did every batter have a hit, every batter scored a run. So this is a 2-day binge.
It really is. Well, maybe getting them down into the Ohio River territory will make a little difference when the Indians and Reds will square up tomorrow.
Fouled straight back and out of play. 2-2 to Napoli, who has 1 hit and 3 at bats. He had a single into left field in the 4th inning. Indians have him loaded, and already an 8-0 advantage here in the last of the 5th. What a block there by Barnhart.
And that's exactly what it was a block. Just trying to get his body in front of that baseball. Now you got to throw a strike with this pitch.
Ball 4. I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's just inexcusable.
It's been to a ball game and walk 2 of the first 3 hitters you face.
Yep, that'd be it. Two and 1 the count on Ramirez. 1 of 3. Singled, stole a base, scored a run in the 3rd. 4 in the 2nd. 3 in the 3rd. 2 more here in the 5th. And now it's 3-1. still 3-2 on Ramirez. Alfredo is charged with all of these runs, all 9 of them. And you can close the book on Simon. He's charged with 10 runs.
Wow.
As Delabar has walked 3 of the 4 batters he has faced. The last 2 with the bases loaded. What does the pitching coach say to Steve Delabar?
I mean, I believe this is probably the last thing that Brian Price and Mark Riggins expected out of Delabar when they went to the bullpen. I mean, a veteran that you bring in, you got to figure the one thing that he can do is throw the ball over the plate.
That look pretty much says it all. Still loaded, and Yan Gomes about it. Gomes 1 out of 3, Singleton scored in the 4-run second inning, and there's ball 1.
Delabar just seems like he's jumping at the plate. He's never really getting his leg up into a good balanced position, and he's just lifting his leg and kind of jumping at it.
Two and 0. Just now, a few bodies beginning to stir around in the Reds bullpen. I mean, we're not going to see a pitching change anytime soon. Three and 1 on Gomes. That's just getting up to throw is Blake Wood. That hot dog looks pretty good right about now. Three-two pitch. And we'll do it again. Bases loaded, 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
This is as bad as it's been. And Tucker Barnhart's going to go out and try to buy some time. He was instructed by Brian Price to go out there and chat it up a little bit to try to give the bullpen a few extra pitches with which to get loose.
Delabar has walked 4 of the 5 batters he's faced, the last 3 with the bases loaded. And Blake Wood is nowhere near being ready to come in. Here's Chisenhall. Delabar getting ahead of Chisenhall at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Two and 2 on Lonnie Chisenhall with the bases loaded. And it remains here at 2-2. Indians clearly on their way here tonight. I mean, granted, it's only the 5th, and oftentimes you never say never. But it's 11-0.
And they've collected 14 hits, and your team has collected 1.
2-2. Is ball 3. They have not been more than 2 games over 500 all year, nor have they been more than 2 games under 500 all year. They come in 1 over here tonight. 3-2 pitch again. That is the 4th consecutive batter that has walked with the bases loaded.
I don't think I have ever seen that at the professional level or the college level. I think you got to go down to junior varsity the last time I saw that.
Pitching change. We're back in a moment.
Tournament presented by Nationwide, May 30th through June 5th. Purchase your tickets at memorialbadges.com. Tournament that Jack built.
(12-0) ball game. Bases loaded for the Indians with 2 outs. Delabar lifted in favor of right-hander Blake Wood.
Wood will come in, and of course his first charge is to be able to throw strikes. Marlon Byrd comes up for the 2nd time in this inning. He will have the opportunity to make 2 outs in the same inning if Blake Wood can retire him.
Nothing in 1 on Marlon Byrd. And it's in there for strike 2. Marlin had a single, scored a run back in the 4-run second inning. He struck out in the third and then grounded out to the shortstop in this 5th inning. Bird is the 11th man to bat in what has been a 5-run 5th inning. 4 of the 5 runs walking home. That's down near Jim Day again. Jim's got those tap shoes on at the end of the Reds dugout tonight.
That might be left over from a really tough question I asked Marlon Byrd last year.
Yeah, but I remember, like a lot of the Reds players, we talk about frequently Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips and the relationship that you have forged through the years with that duo. But, in a short amount of time, you and Marlon Byrd got to know each other pretty well before he was traded away there in July.
A little bit. He was a tough guy to nail down in spring training, I'll tell you that, though.
You mean to try and get an interview?
Yes, yeah. Try to get an interview. He was always doing something.
Yeah.
But he's always working.
Yeah, always working. He is a tireless worker. You have to be a hard worker if you're going to survive and last as long as Byrd has in the big leagues. You can't be lazy. Well, Tapper by the mound. Cozart, a nice play, even with his team down 12-0.
Thank you.
Baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. There will be a new skipper in Atlanta. Freddie Gonzalez removed today as manager. Brian Snitker brought up from AAA. So Freddie Gonzalez, the scapegoat. Atlanta going through a rebuilding process, just off to a 9-28 start. And man, baseball can be frustrating when it's not going well. Last night, Tigers manager Brad Ausmus had it out in the 4th inning, arguing balls and strikes with home plate umpire Doug Eddings, and left a little laundry to boot, covering up home plate with that pullover.
And you know what, Jim, that was on the heels of an article that was written in the USA Today yesterday about Brad Ausmus. A very young, bright guy, was a good player for a long time, well educated, took over as a manager for the Tigers. Things started well his first year. Last year they wound up finishing last after 4 straight divisional titles. They're in the same division as the Indians. There's a liner caught in left field, and they're off to a terrible start this year. And many feel like he could be next on the list for managers looking for work. Davis moves from center to left. Marlon Byrd will get the rest of the night off. Nate Quinn takes over in center. Hard hit ball by Tucker. First pitch swinging Kozine.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure where Brad Ausmus was going when he took his hat off and started to peel off his sweatshirt. But I was stunned to see that he didn't have his uniform on. I mean, don't you put your uniform on before you go into the dugout?
You know what? I think there are a lot of guys that have been doing that for a long time. They put a jacket on and they don't even put on the top. I think you're right, though.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't see it much. You know, normally you'll see that. You know, guys that are built like me that have a boiler. But Ausmus doesn't have a boiler.
No.
He's lean and mean and really angry.
I'm so angry I'm going to take my sweatshirt off.
That's right.
Then I'm going to go wash my car.
You know what, though? You never see that stuff anymore.
No, you know why?
So it's actually nice to see.
Yeah, well, because you have review.
That's exactly
and
right.
as soon as you start to argue, you're immediately pitched out of the game.
I mean, some of the most memorable moments. Can you imagine being a Baltimore Orioles fan back in the late 60s and 70s? Earl Weaver managing. How many times he went out there and put on a show? We saw Lou Piniella throw the base. One time as manager of the Reds, threw it twice in a game against the Cubs. Salazar, meanwhile, has retired 15 in a row.
Through Sunday, thanks to Reach Magazine, you can catch all the action and save with the 4 for $48 ticket offer. Get 4 view-level tickets and 4 Reds hats for only $48. For tickets, 513-381-REDS or visit Reds.com.
Blake Wood, a clean inning to start things here in the Cleveland 6. Indians 15 runs last night. They have 12 in 3 innings tonight. And I understand we're in the 6th inning, but they've scored 12 in 3 innings. 4 in the 2nd, 3 in the 3rd, 5 in the 5th. Davis 3 for 3 tonight. 3 runs scored, 3 runs batted in. 3s are wild for Davis, whose batting average started in this series last night at .210. It is now .243. Rob Butcher, the Reds' director of media relations, informs us that the Reds actually walked 4 batters with the bases loaded in a game last year against the Indians. Now, it wasn't the same guy. Cueto 2, Ryan Matthews 1, Pedro Villarreal 1. That was on July the 19th. That's a 3-2 slider when you're behind in the game 12-0. A 3-2 slider. Is that what that pitch was?
It absolutely was. And I'm dumbfounded.
So is Brian Price. A 3-2 slider to the number 9 batter in the lineup in a 12-0 game. Now the Reds are moving Eugenio Suarez after a ball 1 pitch to the other side of the diamond, where he will wedge between the duo of Votto and Peraza.
The shift defense doesn't work unless you allow the batter to put the ball in play.
What's interesting is Santana has a single to right and a single to left center. And it's 3-0. He's been on base 3 times, knocked in a run, scored 2.
Wow. Is there a way to explain this?
You know what? I'm not even going to try.
I mean, I would imagine up by 12 runs, if you threw the ball over the plate a little bit, the Indians would probably swing the bats. I mean, they've got a game to go to tomorrow. It was probably a game just like this. Buccaneers being beaten badly. John McKay was asked after the game, "What do you think about the execution of your players?" He said, "I'm all for it."
One of the great lines of all time.
Absolutely.
It might be number 1. You know, can you imagine, and there are a lot of young people out there that don't remember John McKay. John McKay was one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football.
Brilliant football coach.
Win after win, season after season, national championships at the University of Southern California. And he is paid at the time a king's ransom to leave USC and go to the NFL with the expansion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the old Sombrero. Remember that place?
Oh, yeah.
That was right next to Al Lopez Field.
Correct.
Where the Reds played their spring training in Tampa, Florida. And man, he went to the Buccaneers. And it was brutal.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that you can see a position player coming in to pitch an inning or two. I mean, at some point you just can't keep running your bullpen out there unless you've got some guys that are ready to come up from the minor leagues and provide you with some fresh arms. And I don't know what the status is of any of those kind of moves. You got to cover some innings somehow.
John McKay won 4 national championships at USC, his last one in 1974. In 75, a disappointing year, he decided, let's go to Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers lost their first 26 games. But he got them turned around. Believe it or not, they wound up going to the playoffs 3 times during the tenure of Coach McKay, including an NFC Championship game in '79.
That's a long at bat right there. And Jason Kipnis, really, he's probably disappointed that he struck out and may have been a marginal pitch. But swing the bat.
Two on, 1 out for Lindor, who singled in the first inning, doubled in the 4-run second, grounded out to Phillips in the 4th, struck out in the 5-run 5th. Hit hard down the line towards the corner. Foul ball. What a play. Oh, he didn't get it. I thought he had it. Thought he made that play with his hat. Is that a Tony Sipp jersey?
I think it is a Tony Sipp jersey. Sure is.
Left-handed reliever, right?
Yes, he is.
Pulled foul.
Tony Sipp last seen pitching with the Houston Astros.
Yes. The big fella there looks like he's doubling up.
On jerseys.
Yeah.
You got 2 of them on.
Well, he could be doubling up on a lot of things. And there's strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts by Blake Wood. So 2 away in the inning, 2 on, and here's Napoli, who's 1 for 3. He's also drawn a bases loaded walk. So 1 RBI tonight, giving him a team best 25 on the year. Davis runner at second base with Santana aboard at first. And the 2-0 pitch. Check swing roller. Foul. See if Wood can put away Napoli here and pick up the third out. It's a slider down and away, 3 balls and a strike.
It's been a while since that drummer out in the left field bleachers has had to keep up the beat. For 15 runs one night, 12 the next. I mean, at this pace, he's going to need Tommy John surgery by the time this game's over.
Well, being here tonight, I know what it's like to be 12 again. Sensory overload. Between the music going on in preparation of the Cavaliers game across the street, going the entire game while we've been playing, and the banging of the drum all night, that's what it is. That one scoots by Peraza. And that'll make it 13-0. Peraza has seen very, very little playing time at second base this year. You know, most of the time since going down to AAA, Louisville, he's been at short. He's played half a dozen games in center and moving over to second base tonight.
Well, he's had a couple of balls goes off his glove. One went for an out and the other for a hit. And looked a little awkward on that one. You know, you bring up young kids, you expect to see the learning process take place.
Sure. Do you think that fell up there and bangs the drums? What's his name? John Adams. You know, he's been doing this for a long, long time. I was getting ready to ask you because I couldn't tell by that shot. This should be the third out. And we have plenty of time to get back to him. I mean, do you think he's wearing something in his ears all night? When he goes to bed at night, do you think he vibrates at night? After beating on that drum all day, especially these last 2 games. Summer, you know, Chris, much like the no-hitter thrown by Jake Arrieta, it was somewhat overshadowed to the last couple of innings, like Salazar's outing tonight because of all the offense. That night, Cubs had 16. Tonight, the Indians have 13.
Well, yeah, you really can't ignore what Salazar has done, which is completely dominate this Reds ball club. The Reds did have a couple of runners on base in the second inning, a walk and a base hit, and then he proceeded to strike out and get out of the inning on the next 2 batters. So he has struck out at least 1 batter in every inning. He's got 7 of them overall. And they're going to go with a new catcher. Terry Francona getting an opportunity to give some of his regulars some time off.
Foul on a play by Joey Votto. So Martinez is now the second baseman. And you saw Jimenez behind the plate.
Well, you know, this is a passing contest going on in this particular matchup between Salazar and Joey Votto. We've got some high tops working out there. The red Nikes on Danny Salazar. Pretty good looking shoes right there. And Joey, not to be outdone, has got some. Are those his gold shoes at the end? No, these are the red ones.
I like these better. Which ones you like? You like those or you like Salazar's better?
I kind of like these too, but Salazar's aren't bad. They look good on him.
They look good on him.
Yeah. Oh, I like those.
Do you?
Yeah. No, they look like they could double as boxing shoes.
You're right. You're right. I like the socks, so I still like the players that wear those pants a little higher with the socks. I know it's not fashionable, and most guys don't do it. You look around, in fact, the Indians have more guys doing it on the field right now than I can remember really any team at one time.
Well, the Indians also have stripes on their socks.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see it go back. You know, with you see more and more players hiking them up like that and showing the socks off. Why not? I mean, fun socks are getting to be a big thing anyway.
Yeah, they are.
Now, his pants are eating the grass out there, but.
One and one on Brandon Phillips. You know, we were talking about John Adams out there.
The drummer.
He has played his bass drum in the bleacher seats during nearly every Indians home game since 1973. And the Indians now pay for 2 season tickets for Adams and his drum. Broken back and unable to make the play. It's short is Lindor. But John Adams has been involved in 2 ceremonial first pitches, and he is the only fan for whom the Cleveland Indians have dedicated a bobblehead day.
Wow.
His first game was August the 24th, 1973 at Old Cleveland Municipal Stadium right along the lake when the Indians beat the Texas Rangers 11-5. He was 21 years young at the time.
Well, he's probably fresh out of college or close to fresh out of college, and the commencement speaker said, go do something worthwhile with your life. I mean, he's got a plaque.
Yes, he does. He has witnessed Len Barker's perfect game in '81. The Indians trips to the World Series in '95 and '97. And he still uses the same 26-inch wide bass drum that he started with that first game in 1973. How about that?
Wow.
He bought it for $25 at a garage sale.
He's probably a connoisseur of every different type of hot dog that they've served here in Cleveland over the years.
He is a graduate of St. Ignatius High School, which of course is an outstanding parochial school here in the Cleveland area. He ended up graduating from Parma Senior High School in Parma, Ohio. He works on computer systems, teaches classes over at Cleveland State University, serves in the Kiwanis Club, and is a member of the Community Emergency Response Team in his hometown of Brecksville, Ohio.
Wow.
So good for him.
Yeah, really.
Sounds like a well-rounded guy. Likes playing the drums. That'll fall in a hit to load him up on a base hit by Suarez.
And just unless you're counting, I'll let you know that in a minute.
You doing math again?
I am doing math.
Well, you can go ahead and take your socks off and use your toes too.
He has witnessed, John Adams, since August the 24th, 1973, he has witnessed. Would you like to make a guess how many Indians losses he has sat and watched?
73. Hang on a minute now.
Here
at home. Okay, so we're looking at 81 games a year, right?
Okay.
For 43 seasons, right? So, wow. How many?
1,578.
But you know what? He looks like a happy guy.
Yeah. Hasn't bothered him one bit.
No. Looks to be like in good shape. Makes friends out there in the stands. There's a fly ball by Duvall. This should get the Reds on the board. Tagging and scoring is Brandon. And it's 13-1. Duvall driving in his 16th run of the year. So Salazar, who came into this inning having retired 15 in a row, allows 3 straight hits and now a sac fly. That ball hit a long way into right center, and it's caught for the final out. Reds get a run. They trail 13-1 in Cleveland.
season at the ballpark for just $12. This Saturday, the first 25,000 fans will get that awesome Ken Griffey Jr. dual bobblehead, thanks to St. Elizabeth Healthcare. For tickets, as always, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com.
Well, the Reds are making multiple changes as they take the field defensively here in the last of the 7, trailing 13-1. We'll tell you about those here in a minute. A lot of Reds fans making the, either the trip up to Cleveland, or maybe they live in the area and grew up in Cincinnati or the greater Cincinnati area. That fellow we see all the time, every week in our Reds Hot Stove League. Drawing a blank on his name, doggone it. But man, he is a hardcore Reds fan. That's a big league shirt.
That is a nice shirt.
Well, we start on the mound where the Reds' current closer, opponent's only batting .203 this year against Tony Cingrani.
He is the 4th pitcher of the night that Brian Price has had to employ. Alfredo Simon went 4 1/3. Delabar came in and got 1 out. Ended up being charged with 2 runs and 5 walks. And Blake Wood an inning and a third of 1-run baseball.
Jordan Pacheco will replace Votto at first. De Jesus now is short. And a new right fielder for Jay Bruce. Tyler Holt. Chris Jimenez. A count of 2-2. And that is strike 3 to begin the Indians' 7th. So Chris, you were gone for a long weekend in Philly. Overall, it's a pretty short road trip, 5 games. And that will be the length of the upcoming homestand. You never know sometimes when you get involved in interleague play, meaning before a season begins, who's going to be any good. We rarely ever see the American League West. Not a surprise that the Rangers are having a good year. The 2 big surprises, how bad Houston is, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not surprised by that at all.
Why is that?
Because I think this small market, mid-market thing in baseball is a sham. I really believe in the long haul that small market teams are not going to sustain excellence for long. I really don't. Unless they can find a way to, like the Cardinals, and I don't even know if you would consider them, even though their city size is not a big market, they are a big market team because of their payroll. I mean, because of their attendance and the amount of money they're generating with that payroll, for that payroll, in attendance. A lot of teams are doing great money-wise, and the Reds will do money-wise better with a new television contract sometime soon. But man, oh man, as we know, drafting and signing players can be an inexact science. And so when you get a whole flood of players, i.e. Kansas City, right? And that's what they've done. And they try to keep as many as they can. They're going to be competitive this year. Houston was a team that has a lot of young players. But, you really look back on over the last 20 years in baseball, and some will say, well, look at all the teams that are making the playoffs that are small to mid-market sized teams. And they're factually correct. But how many of those teams are playing in a World Series? Kansas City was the rare exception these last 2 years. Those Oakland teams, They never got out of the first round of the playoffs.
I mean, you could go back and look at the San Francisco Giants, and they're obviously a big city team, a big market team, but they didn't have an overwhelming payroll when they went and won the World Series 3 of the last.
No, they didn't. And I, when I say that, you can have seasons where a big market team does a great job over a certain amount of time scouting, and they'll have players like the Reds did. I mean, that group that played together with the Reds, as that one is into right center. I mean, that is a team, I think we all agree, that is a team that was good enough in 2012 that could have won the World Series.
Yeah.
And the Reds did an incredible job of scouting, developing, bringing players to the big leagues at the same time. So big market teams can have that way, and really that's the way that Giants team was built that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Pablo Sandoval, all those guys, Buster Posey, they were all their own guys coming up together.
Well, I think it's, you know, you're almost making an argument that it's difficult whether you're a large market team or a small market team to sustain.
And the point I'm making is that for the big market team, you can make up for it.
You can make up for a bad signing by letting that player loose or paying another team to take him. Or you turn over your roster,
or just adding more payroll like the Yankees have done for so long. That hasn't worked much lately.
Yeah. But I mean, that's really kind of the point too. The Red Sox and the Yankees have come on hard times over the last few years. As soon as they start to dial back the payroll even just a little bit, and you can be the first on the block with the new thing, the new toy, whether it's metrics or a new way of scouting or, you know, some kind of a magical formula. And then, but pretty soon, you know, other teams are going to pick up on it too, and they're going to start copying what you're doing, and everybody's going to be kind of back into the same resource pool.
Sure.
But it does come down to scouting and development and drafting and getting lucky with injuries and getting lucky with young players at your side.
The other surprise in that division would be how well Seattle's playing. And the Reds will see them this weekend. They sit atop the NL West, or the AL West. And that is a very interesting dynamic they have going on there in Seattle. Jerry DiPoto fired as general manager of the Angels. Tried to bring more statistical analysis to the Angels front office. Lost in really a war with manager Mike Scioscia. Goes to Seattle. There's strike 3 called to Naquin. 2 away. He hires a guy that's never managed in former catcher Scott Servais. And so far so good. I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm ultimately saying here. I am not daring to suggest that teams with lesser payrolls can't win a World Series. I'm not suggesting that at all. Just saying that over the long body of work and over the long haul, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. It is a far greater challenge in this day and age for the smaller market, mid-market teams to have sustained and prolonged excellence.
Well, I mean, those teams that haven't won a World Series in a long time, they'll get to the sustained part later. They just want to get to the World Series right now. I mean, Cleveland wants to get back to the World Series here. The Reds want to get back to the World Series. We'll worry about doing it 5 out of 6 years after you get there the first time.
You're right.
So that's the way I think that, you know, if I'm in the front office, that's the way I'm building it. I want to get there. I want to energize the city like they've been able to do in Kansas City. We've talked to many of those people who surround that ball club, the broadcasters and coaches and so on, they say that the difference that it has made in Kansas City for being in the World Series in those back-to-back years is just like night and day.
No doubt. And you know what? The Reds tried it. They gave it a good run. They tried to, they added pieces and trades after 2010, a down 11, but 12. They go out and get Matt Latos, among other players. They brought in Ryan Ludwig, who was a big part of that 12 team. I mean, that's when Votto got hurt, and Ludwig was dynamite. Brought in Jonathan Broxton in the bullpen. And we know what happened after they got ahead 2-0.
So you try to get back to where you were, and in order to do so, you've got to make sure that you use the players that are coming up in your system. You've got to spend your money wisely, and in the meantime, you ask your fans for patience. But sometimes patience looks really ugly, like it has done a couple of nights so far this season. I don't think it looks any worse to anyone than it does to Brian Price, because he's the guy who, when you pick up the baseball reference, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, and you look back on a manager's record, you see a record of a manager that had a rebuilding team. Mark Riggins has to be running out of things to say.
We are in the 7th inning. They might start game 2 of that series next door before this one's over. And that's not complaining. That's borderline possible. Reds pitchers have walked 9 batters so far in the game tonight. And as we remember in that fateful 5th, 4 walked in a row with the bases loaded. Nothing in 2 on Santana. Force out at second will retire the side.
Time now for our Volkswagen drive of the game. On this date, 2008, Adam Dunn hit a mammoth home run. A walk-off home run against the Indians. It almost left the yard. Measured at 449 feet. A 3-run home run. And Adam Dunn afterwards was named the MOP, the most outstanding player of the Ohio Cup Series. Dunner, man, when he hit them, they stayed hit.
We go to the top of the 8th inning. Danny Salazar still in the ball game. He has given up 1 run so far on 4 hits. That 1 run came in the last inning when the Reds were able to piece together 3 knocks in a row.
And Salazar trying to get his 4th win of this season against 2 defeats, despite the fact that his ERA is under 2.
I'm actually a little surprised to see him still out there.
Well, you got to believe this inning will probably be it. 92nd pitch coming up. The ball drilled by Barnhart. It's up against the wall, and Tucker in with a double. He may not even last this whole inning. Santana takes over at first base for Napoli. So 1 change defensively for the Indians. First at bat of the game for Ivan De Jesus Jr.
Salazar breaking out a new pitch here with that curveball. Salazar really turned it on last year. He had somewhat of a mediocre first half in 2015, but in his final 15 starts, 95 innings, his earned run average was down in the 2.8 range, and his fastball averaged 11th as far as overall fastball velocity in all of Major League Baseball. And Terry Francona has already pointed the bullpen.
Well, he will leave the game with 8 strikeouts, only 1 walk after walking 6 his last time out. And he gives up the 1 run on 5 base hits.
On Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Well, Jim Day, just to bring you up to date, for those of you who are staying with us right here, Salazar is lifted from the game after 7 1/3 innings of 5-hit, 1-run baseball. Next door, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Toronto had jumped out in front 5-0 to begin the game. But it is Cleveland with a 5-point lead at the end of the opening quarter, 33-28.
You sound pretty good doing that. Have you ever done much basketball?
Ton of it. Some Cincinnati fans may remember, I was fortunate enough to be the TV voice of the University of Cincinnati basketball Bearcats through many, many years under Coach Bob Huggins. And let me tell you, Doctor, they were really good every year.
That's probably pretty interesting.
It was
team to watch.
Awesome.
Too. Yeah.
Great coach, incredible coach, loved by his players. Tell you what, man, they were fun to watch. And let me tell you something. You better come to compete at practice every day. Their practices were like a war. Every day. They were fun to watch.
So do you miss not doing basketball in the wintertime? And now you're coaching now.
I'm trying to hang on as it is right now.
I mean, the excitement of the basketball game, a little different pace than a baseball
I like
game.
Coaching. I'm not any good at it, but I like it. And I get to hang out with our kids while they're playing. How you gonna beat that?
Have you ever called up Huggy Bear and say, hey, do you have a couple of maybe press zones that I can employ? The kids are now 9, and what do you got for me?
I've thought about it. Haven't done it. But I am going to take him up next year. He's had a long-running invitation. Every year he asks me about coming to Morgantown and staying with him and watching them play. And I'm going to take him up on it next year. I love their style of basketball. Tough. Relentless.
Did Jordan Pacheco miss the count, or did he think that was a ball and was called a strike?
The latter. There was an appeal on that check swing.
Okay.
3-2 on Pacheco.
I would think at this point in the game, Mike Everett would be an expert on walks.
Does John Adams ever leave early? Never. Back to the mound, and that'll be it for the Reds in the 8th inning. It's Ohio ticket offer is a great deal on Reds tickets for the upcoming series against Seattle over the weekend. Terrace line tickets are just $25. Go to Reds.com/FSOhio right now and use the code FSOhio to get your tickets for this weekend. The offer expires at the end of tonight's post-game show.
That is Ross Ohlendorf in for the Reds, pitcher number 5 for Brian Price.
Cingrani an inning, a hit and a walk, no runs. Michael Martinez batting for the first time tonight, and he lifts a fly ball into short left. Duvall is there, and Ohlendorf takes care of Martinez to begin the inning. Now Ohlendorf received a 3-game suspension and an undisclosed fine for intentionally throwing at David Freese of the Pirates. And while warnings were in place for both teams, the top of the 9th inning of Wednesday's game is when that happened. Brian Price, a 1-game suspension and a fine. Brian's already served his. Ohlendorf's suspension had been scheduled to begin Friday, but he is elected to file an appeal. Ball 1 high.
Well, if Ross Ohlendorf reminds you of an old-time pitcher, he really reminds our producer Josh Hall of an old-time producer who pitched right here in Cleveland. And we're going to show you Bob Feller on the left with the big long step backwards and the overhand motion before he gets his leg up and comes to the plate. Right over the top comes Ross Ohlendorf. Robert William Andrew Feller. Rapid Robert. Also known as the Heater Fen Van Meter.
That's Iowa, right?
Van Meter, Iowa, yeah.
Yep.
Of course, that was way before the draft ever was installed in baseball. He was signed as a free agent by the Indians back in 1936.
Third hit tonight for Lindor. This is a double with 1 out.
This guy's wearing out the left side of the outfield out there. I mean, he's a tough guy to defense. His first hit was the right center field. His last 2 hits have been doubles that way. It almost like at will he's able to take a pitch on the outer part of the plate and not really slap it, but not really drive it either. Something like in between, but lays it in a vacant part of the ballpark for a double.
Very simple, very smooth path to the ball.
Very simple. When you have this kind of talent,
sure,
it might be simple.
Juan Uribe bats for the first time. He's down a strike. Well, he had 19 hits, 15 runs last night. 17 hits, 13 runs tonight. 28 and 36. The runs and hits in 2 games. To give you an idea of what, I mean, look, when it comes to any sport, and please, I am not condoning in any way, shape, or form gambling. But if you want to have a pretty good idea, not just on sports, but politics and a lot of other things in life, you start checking out odds in Vegas. There's a reason why they're making a lot of money in Vegas when they set those odds. The Chicago Cubs were given the best chance before the season began at 4-1 to win the World Series. Ollendorf will take care of Uribe. The Philadelphia Phillies went off with the Atlanta Braves, the longest shots, if you will, to win the World Series at 500-1. The Cleveland Indians went off at 16-1 before this year began. They were among the top 8 clubs as far as odds are concerned to win the World Series. Now, they've not hit like this all year long, but there are a lot of people that believe this is a very good Cleveland team.
Well, weren't they picked last year to win the World Series?
By Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. Well, they've got the starting pitching.
Yes. If they get Carrasco back.
Lights out, right.
Inning over. Reds will bat in the ninth. Scoreless inning by Ollendorf. 13-1, Cleveland in front.
It's Reds Live, the pregame edition. First look at the lineups, features, interviews, and more. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. You know the old adage in baseball, normally you have tomorrow to erase tonight. Well, these two teams will go right at it at Great American Ballpark, part 2 of the Battle of Ohio. It'll be Mike Clevenger's Major League debut, and he'll go against lefty Brandon Finnegan. Reds Live at 6:30 to game the follow here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Jim Day, I'd like to thank you while we have a minute. As some of you may know, and if you don't know, you probably can tell, I've been battling through some laryngitis here the last couple of weeks. And normally it is my job to read all these promos during the course of a game. It's part of my job description. Jim Day, I'd like to thank you for handling that these last couple of days. I really appreciate it. So you're not only doing your job, you're doing part of mine. Thank you.
No problem, but I'll give myself a C+ on formulating complete sentences. It's been a struggle tonight.
I know the feeling, young man. I know the feeling. Here's Cody Allen. He is the Cleveland closer. Perfect 9 of 9 in save situations on the year. I really want to thank everybody involved, whether it's with the Reds or those on our crew. You know, whether it's George Grant, Jim Day, Jim Kelch, Chris, obviously you. But our producer Josh Hall, director Brian Hunterman. I've had to miss a lot of time. And thank all of you guys for picking up the slack.
Well, Tom, we're happy to do that. And I know you mean that sincerely.
I really do.
You really do. And we miss you when you're not here.
Well,
I can tell you that. We're rooting for you to get back and on a full-time basis like you were supposed to do at the beginning of the year. And kind of get back in the saddle. Get on the road.
Yep. Me too. Good Lord willing, that's going to happen. Brandon Phillips leading off the Cincinnati ninth. Tyler Holt will get his first at bat of the game. He's on deck, and then Eugenio Suarez. I'm reminded by one of the great baseball minds, and you're familiar with Tom Barbary.
Sure.
Been operating out of Florida for a long, long time. Mr. Barbary reminds me that Cody Allen is from the Orlando area and went to the same high school as former Red Joe Oliver.
Interesting. I think Joe Oliver's down in Orlando coaching some high school baseball now. Probably. Oh, that's right. He did that for a few years, and then he's now with the Boston Red Sox, I believe. Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's the guy that has that team where the Madeira High School grad Andrew Benintendi is playing, and Tracy Jones had just come back from watching his son in the minor leagues, played against that team. He said it might be the best offensive team he has ever seen in the minor leagues. Benintendi's on that team, and apparently
having a great year.
The Red Sox, 2 or 3 other, prize prospects in their organization are also on that team. Tracy's son Hunter, I guess, is a highly touted player coming out of high school in Northern Kentucky. Has had to deal with a lot of injuries. He started his career, in fact, with the Indians. But now he's healthy again and apparently playing really, really well.
Good.
Clevenger will give the nod tomorrow night. His major league debut. And there is ball 4 to Holt. 1-0 on Eugenio Suarez. One and one on Suarez. The ball in the air to right. And there are 2 away in the inning. After each and every Reds game here on Fox Sports Ohio, we invite you to stick around for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. We'll break it all down. Reds down to their final out. They'll get together with the Indians tomorrow night. Again, 2 games to be played between these same 2 teams at Great American Ballpark. So we'll back it up an hour each of the next 2 nights rather than 6:10 starts like they have here. We'll go to 7:10. One and two on Adam Duvall. Indians a strike away and out away from equaling their season best, 2 games over 500. Strike 3, and that's the old ball game. So the Indians sweep the 2-game series. 13-1 the final tonight. Game 3 of this Ohio Cup Series tomorrow night from Great American Ballpark. We invite you to join us. Reds Live 6:30. Game coverage begins at 7. For Chris Welsh, Jim Day, Tom Brenneman, thanks so much for joining us. Reds Live coming up next.